Hey everybody, this week on the Inktwell we're taking a look at Lamy Amazonite. This is part of their Crystal Ink series and comes in this rather nondescript box with the Made in Germany information and a small representation of the color along the bottom. Opening up the box, we've got the bottle of ink itself, which is packaged in a rather interesting manner with the cardboard cutouts and a foam bottom in the box to help prevent the glass from shattering during shipping. Putting the box away here, let's go ahead and take a look at the bottle itself. It's an interesting shaped bottle for a 30 ml bottle. I was expecting something just regular, plain, boring round, but this one kind of reminds me of a guitar pick. I also really have to say I am a fan of the etched logo on the cap itself. And speaking of the cap, one thing Lamy does with these particular bottles is they build in a rubber gasket seal with a representation of the ink color. But most importantly, this rubberized seal helps keep the ink from spilling during transit and also helps keep the ink airtight when stored. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ink itself. First, let's start with the swatch, and with this one in particular, it's a nice teal. It's not really a true robin's egg blue, but it's a good combination of that, turquoise, and teal all rolled into one. It kind of reminds me of Robert Oster turquoise, but as I was writing with Amazonite, I found it to sheen more than turquoise did. Your results may vary, but that's just how these two particular bottles tended to behave. All in all, it's a really nice color. And you can see here the difference I was talking about, where Amazonite is a little bit of a deeper blue, whereas turquoise has more of the robin's egg aspect to it. Now, since I did see sheen in this ink when I was doing the drip tests, I wanted to see if that would come out in the chromatography. As you can see here, it really doesn't, which makes that a hidden feature of this ink, especially considering other sheeners in that particular scenario at least show up in the chromatography for that ink. Now, moving on to the writing sample, for this one we used the Sailor Pro Gear Slim in the Graphite Lighthouse colorway with a hard broad nib. This is a recent acquisition, so I was kind of feeling in the pen, but I really like the way this nib performs. It's super smooth, has good flow, and I think it did a really good job of representing what this ink can do on paper. Speaking of which, the writing sample is done on our Endless Works notebook with the 68 GSM Tomoe River paper. And as you can see, there's very little show through or bleed when writing on Tomoe River, even with this Sailor broad nib, which is going to be more of a European medium equivalent. Even at that line width, you still get a medium to good amount of shading. I was expecting a little bit more, but it still didn't disappoint. The dry time is extremely fast, between 5 and 10 seconds, but the big draw to this ink for me has to be the swab and the ink drop itself. The swab shows a little bit more of the subtle shading. I don't know what it is with the swab, but this ink doesn't really shade well with it, but look at that ink drip. And look at how this particular blue, teal, turquoise fades into that red. I really like that effect. And I may end up buying another 2 or 3 bottles strictly for art purposes because of that. And let's go ahead and move on to our water test. Once again, this is Rhodia dot pad number 16. And it is still well behaved on that, but instead of water this time, since I was kind of lazy and forgot my bulb syringe, we're going to go ahead and use the remnants of my coffee. So while the timer runs so you can see how long we let the coffee soak, let's actually take a minute to talk about the coffee itself. This is Colombia San Agustin coffee, which was purchased from coffeebytheroast.com, where you can pick from a wide selection of single origin coffees. And the cool thing about this, you can actually select at what temperature they roast the beans for you. Now, by no means is this an ad for them, and they honestly don't know I'm talking about their coffee, but it was so good that I felt I'd be a horrible person if I didn't at least bring up where you can get this stuff. It's that good. Almost as good as the water sample results here. I was expecting the ink to literally just completely leave the paper, but that's recoverable. I mean, it could be a lot better. There could be color left, like there isn't in this case, but that's actually still pretty good results for being left in a puddle of coffee for over 30 seconds. Which I guess brings us to that part of the video where I sit here and think about my overall thoughts for this particular ink. I mean, Lamy Amazonite is a good ink, especially for the quantity to price. It's just over $12, and you get 30 ml of really good ink that holds up quite well. It's got a medium fast dry time, which that's on Tomoe River paper, so on other papers, it's going to be just as good, if not better. And that property actually makes this ink a work environment friendly ink for me, because I can use it and know that I'm not going to have it smear everywhere. It has no feathering, which is a huge plus, and it also has no bleed, which, for it to have virtually no bleed on Tomoe River paper, means it's an extremely well-behaved ink. Also, it does have shading, but that's kind of if you go overboard with the ink and you're using it for more artistic purposes. And same thing with the sheen. It's there, but you really have to go overboard. The one thing it doesn't have, though, is shimmer. You're not going to see any particulates in there. And I think that would have kind of been interesting, especially with this being the Crystal Series ink. I think they could have put just a hint of shimmer in there, and it really would have pushed it over the top. Now, on the water/coffee test, it held there to where it was still recoverable, but the color was completely gone, so it's not waterproof, but it's definitely 2.5 to 3 out of 5 for water resistance, which is still really good. So putting all of that together and quantifying it into an overall number, this particular ink, even with its drawbacks, which are very few actually, I think Lamy did a great job on this one, and for that, Amazonite easily gets, I'd have to say, a 9 out of 10 overall for the final score. And that's really good on this ink. It's a workplace-friendly ink, it's quick drying, it's good flowing, and I don't think you're going to run into any issues using this particular ink, so you really want to give it a shot. And if you're going to purchase it, head on over to penchalet.com and click on that radio podcast link at the top of the page to get 10% off site-wide when you use the code INKDWELL in the How You Heard About Us section. And don't forget to check out the links down below for all the products featured in this video, and check out the Discord and my podcast 2 Guys 0 Planners that I do with Urban Hafner from FPC.Inc. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. I'll see you guys next time.